Hi children, good morning to all. How are you all? Hope all are doing good and praying to be good and happy to come back with another session children. Welcome back to new session. So in the previous session we started the new chapter, that is life process. How the processes are helpful for the survival of an organism or for the life of an organism, to lead the life of an organism. Then we started about the process of nutrition. It is one of the life process. Nutrition is nothing but the process of intaking of nutrients, and we discussed about two types of nutrition, that is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. All the plants and blue-green algae are autotrophic nutrients. So auto means self, nutrition means having a nutrients. So plants, only the plants by the process of photosynthesis, they prepare the food substances, they procure the food substances, and they have the autotrophic nutrition. And what is the process of photosynthesis? Light reaction, dark reaction, we discussed in the previous session. And along with that, in heterotrophic nutrition also we discussed about saprophytic nutrition and also parasitic nutrition. Saprophytic nutrition is done by the fungus and the bacteria. Parasitic nutrition like a cactus plants, lice, leeches. So that is a host type of nutrition we discussed. So another type of heterotrophic nutrition is holozoic nutrition. In holozoic nutrition we discussed about how the amoeba having a nutrition, that is the holozoic nutrition consists of 4 steps, that is ingestion, digestion, absorption and assimilation. All this process how will be taken in the protozoa, that is amoeba, we discussed. Now let us have the discussion about the holozoic nutrition in human beings. So how the nutrition takes place in the human beings. Nutrition in human beings. The process of nutrition is the getting and utilizing of the energy rich nutrients by an organism is called as a nutrients. The food which the process of taking nutrients is called as a nutrition. In that we used to take different types of nutrients like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals and fibers and water. So all these we used to take for the purpose. What is the purpose, or what does the food is providing? What is the nutrition is providing to our body? So energy for the life activities. What are life activities? Any activity from morning to night, from the working up the bed to the again sleep to the bed, a lot of activities we used to do to survive ourselves. Even in our body, a lot of activities, metabolic activities are taking place. Nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion. All these activities, all are metabolic activities. So all they need the energy. So the food which we are eating, it is providing energy for all the life activities. Materials for better growth of an organism. So when we are a child, we are very small. No? Day by day we can find a growth. How it is happening? The food which we are eating, it is supporting our organs to have a better growth. So food provides the growth of the body, maintenance of the body temperature. So we should always maintain constant body temperature. So homeotherms, or that we call it as a warm-blooded animals, which maintain the constant body temperature. If the body temperature is not constant, what happens? If it is reduced, we call it as a low fever, and all the metabolic activities become reduced, they cannot be work well and they are not active. And if the temperature is increased, we can name it as a fever, yes or no. So due to that fever also many people is also dying. Maintenance of body temperature is very most important. And next one is about repair of tissues. See, when you fall down children, the skin you gain scars, no, removal of skin you can find, you find the scars on the skin. So after few days you can find a rearrangement of new skin cells, yes or no. That is a regeneration of the skin is taken in. This is also happens due to intaking of a food. The food which we are eating, it helps to repair the cells, repairing of our tissues, and provide the good strength to the body. And what are the different types of the nutrients we are taking? Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. Fibers are not given, fibers and the water. These all are called as a food nutrients. Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins and fibers. Along with this, water is also added. So the water plays an important role in the metabolic processes and they prevent dehydration of the body. So by intaking of water should be taken nearly 5 to 6 liters of water per day. So by taking of that water, it helps to maintain all the metabolic activities in the body in a better manner. All the activities will done in a better manner and helps to provide the energy by all the metabolic activities. As I said you that human digestive system. The human digestive system is divided into two parts, that is alimentary canal, which we call it as a gut. Alimentary canal or a gut, human digestive system is also called as a alimentary canal and a gut. And the another part is the digestive glands. These are associated glands, digestive glands, which are helpful for the digestion of a food. So they are associated with the digestive system. Let us see different parts of alimentary canal. Mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus, rectum and anus. And now coming to the digestive glands, you can find the picture, children. You can observe while going through the parts, you can observe salivary glands, gastric glands, liver, pancreas, intestinal glands. Salivary glands, gastric glands, liver, pancreas and intestinal glands. So coming to the alimentary canal starts with the mouth. So the mouth opens into a buccal cavity. The empty space in the mouth, we call it as a buccal cavity. So mouth helps to receive the food. The process of receiving food into the mouth, we call it as a incision. Buccal cavity, the empty space, we call it as a buccal cavity, oral cavity or a mouth cavity. We can call it as a buccal cavity, oral cavity or a mouth cavity. So these buccal cavity consists of a palate. The roof part we call it as a palate, and we have a teeth, and the muscular organ we call it as a tongue. So palate has a anterior hard part and posterior soft part. So anteriorly means the external part and the posterior means into the part. So that is a anterior. So the tongue palate has the anteriorly it is very hard and posteriorly it is a soft part. So tongue is a muscular organ attaches to the floor of the oral cavity. Floor means end part of the oral cavity. It is connected by the frenulum. The tongue will connected the part we call it as a frenulum. So tongue has a small projections are called as a papillae. Small projections, we call them as a papillae. So orange color parts you can see there, the papillae, the word. So these papillae consist of a taste buds. So it has a taste buds. Tongue has a projections called papillae. Some papillae they are having the taste buds. Nearly the tongue is having a 10,000 of taste buds. So at the back on either sides of the tongue we can find the tonsils. Here you can see either sides of the tongue. If you touch slightly here, you can find a ball-like structure, small balls that they call as a tonsils. On either sides of the tongue, we can find a tonsils. So the arrangement of a teeth in the mouth, we call it as a dentition. The arrangement, the nature and the mode of arrangement of a teeth is called as a dentition. So here heterodont means having a different types of a teeth. So human dentition is heterodont, thecodont and a diphodont. So let us see the heterodont. It means the different kinds of a teeth are present. What are the different types of teeth are present in the mouth? Incisors, canines, premolars, molars. So the incisors helps to cut the food substances. Canines helps to tear the flesh or tear the food. Premolars helps for the better mastication, and molars also helps to maintain the mastication. What is meant by mastication? A well chewing of a food, making the food in the mouth in the form of a paste. That a better chewing is called as a mastication. So premolars and molars, they facilitate the mastication of food. Premolars and molars are collectively called as cheek teeth. Premolars and molars, they are present in the cheek. That's why they both are called as cheek teeth. These cheek teeth which they are having the cups. So you can see here how the teeth are placed. So the teeth are placed in the jaw sockets. Sockets means depressions. So they are present in the jaw sockets. The teeth are arranged in the jaw sockets. So to get the flexibility, they are insisted in the jaw sockets to gain the flexibility. So coming to the teeth, in a duration of lifespan we can find two types of a teeth. First one is milk teeth and next one is permanent teeth. So the milk teeth can also be called it as a decidual teeth. They are called as a decidual teeth. The number of teeth is 20. So develops at the age of 6 to 7 months of the birth. Very soon after birth of the baby reaches to the 6 to 7 months, we can find the growth or the development of a teeth. Such a teeth are called as milk teeth. Okay, they are replaced by the permanent teeth at the age of 6 to 7 years. So after when they reach to the age of 6 to 7, the teeth of milk teeth will be removed and we can find the formation of permanent teeth. Permanent teeth are in number 32. Milk teeth count is 20 and the permanent teeth is 32. So the last four molars appears at the age of 18. So 18 after 18 or after 18 we can find the growth of the premolar teeth. Okay, so these molar teeth are called as wisdom teeth. The molar teeth in permanent teeth we can find the molars. That molars we call them as a wisdom teeth. The hard chewing surface of a teeth is made by the enamel. You can find when you open your teeth, they are looks in a white color. They are very glazy, no? That glazy part we call it as a enamel. So the arrangement of a teeth in the jawbone is called as a dentition. And the count or the formula which shows of a teeth, the formula of a teeth we call it as a dental formula. So coming to the dental formula, in case of adults we can see the permanent teeth. The permanent teeth incisors number is 2 by 2, upper jaw and lower jaw. 2 by 2, canines 1 by 1, premolars 2 by 2 and molars 3 by 3. So the total number of teeth are 32. Into 2, no? The total number of teeth are 32. The permanent teeth. Whereas shortly we can call it 2 1 2 3. The dental formula is 2 1 2 3 by 2 1 2 3. And coming to the children, the milk teeth. So incisors 2 by 2, canines 1 by 1 and no premolars. So 0 by 0 and molars 2 by 2. Overall the total number of teeth is 20. So in a short form you can see 2102 by 2102. 2102 by 2102 is a milk teeth dental formula in a children. Okay. So in adults we can say 2123 by 2123. So after the mouth opens into a pharynx. The next part, the oral cavity or a buccal cavity is called as a pharynx. So common passage for a digestive and respiratory system. The pharynx is the common passage for the digestive system and the respiratory system. When food materials pass through the pharynx, the cartilaginous epiglottis close the glottis, opening of a larynx and prevents the entry of food into the trachea. So when the food is traveling, we can find a flap-like structure on the air tract. That we call it as epiglottis. It is made by the cartilaginous tissue. Cartilage is nothing but it is a tissue, animal tissue, which we studies in the animal tissues. It is a connective tissue, and it is not hard as a bone, as smooth as a muscle, but it is a light hard than muscle. Okay, so it is a connective tissue placed at the top of the air tract. It acts like a flap-like structure, prevent the food entry of a food into the air tract. Okay, it prevents us from the choking. In the respiratory system we can discuss. That is the main important thing of epiglottis. Coming to the esophagus. The pharynx opens into esophagus. The esophagus is also called as a food pipe. The esophagus can also be called as. So, the mouth opens into a tube-like structure. We call it as a esophagus. The esophagus length is 130 centimeters. The length is 30 centimeters, and the posterior part of esophagus has a gastroenteroesophageal sphincter. What is the function of a sphincter? Sphincter acts like a we can say that it prevents the backward flow of a food. When the food is flowing in through the food tract, in the food pipe, the food should not come back. If it comes, it results in the vomiting condition, no? So it prevents the backward flow of food. So these sphincters are present in the digestive tract. So it controls the opening of the stomach into the esophagus, controls the opening. The sphincter controls the opening of esophagus into the stomach. Okay, you can find the different food esophagus, circular muscle contraction, and previous mouthful of food swallowed. That is, we can say as it is, the esophagus is having circular muscles and the longitudinal muscles. The circular muscles and the longitudinal muscles shows the contraction, alternate contraction and relaxation. When the circular muscle is contracted, the longitudinal muscle will be relaxed. When the longitudinal muscle is contracted, the circular muscle will be relaxed. So the alternate contraction and relaxation of a circular muscles and the longitudinal muscles in the esophagus, they result in the process of peristalsis. This peristaltic movement facilitates the movement of food easily in the stomach or throughout the gut. So the esophagus opens into a stomach. You can see the part of the stomach. Let us study about the stomach. So stomach is a J-shaped structure for the storage and the digestion of food. The stomach is a J-shaped structure which facilitate the storing of the food and also helpful for the digestion of food. So the stomach is divided into three parts, that is upper stomach, middle stomach and lower stomach. So the upper part of the stomach we call it as a fundus, and the middle part of the stomach is called as a fundus. The upper part, the starting part of the stomach we call it as a cardiac stomach. The posterior part of the stomach we call it as a pyloric stomach. So the starting part of the stomach we call it as a cardiac stomach, and the middle part is a fundus, and the end part we call it as a pyloric stomach. Pyloric stomach leads to the small intestine. So the pyloric stomach is end part of the stomach, it leads to the small intestine. So it is the pyloric stomach is guarded by the opening called as a pylorus, that is a pyloric sphincter. So the food again should not travel from the small intestine to stomach, it prevents. So in the inner walls of the stomach bears the longitudinal folds, that is called as a rook. So now let us see after the stomach opens into a small intestine. Coming to the small intestine, longest part of the gut. The small intestine is the longest part of the gut. The length of the stomach is 7 meters long and 2.5 centimeters diameter. The length of the stomach is 7 meters long and 2.5 centimeters diameter. So this small intestine again divided into 3 parts, that are duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum, jejunum and ileum, the starting part. So the duodenum is a C-shaped part in the digestive system, and the duodenum opens into jejunum. This jejunum is the middle part of the small intestine, and the next one is a ileum, that is a terminal part, end part of the small intestine. What is happening in the small intestine? So finger-like villi are seen at the mucus. So each villus has the brush bordered columnar epithelium layer provided with the microvillus. That means columnar epithelium means, we discussed epithelial tissues in the animal tissues in 9th class. This columnar epithelium means the epithelial cells are in the columnar shape, that is we can see the pillar like structures that are a columnar epithelium. So villus consists of a capillary network and a small lymph vessels. Capillary network means the villus contain more number of blood vessels. Here you can find the number of blood vessels, we can find the more number of blood vessels. Along with that it has a lymph that which we call it as a lacteal. What is the importance of the lymph? The food which we eat, the carbohydrates which we eat, ultimate digestion, they converts into glucose. The proteins will converts into amino acids, and the fats will converted into fatty acids and the glycerols. So the carbohydrates which they dissolved change into glucose and amino acids, they will be absorbed by the villus into the blood and reaches to the heart through the blood. But the fatty acids and the glycerols, they are ultimate digestion of the fats, no? They provide the thickness to the blood. If they travel through the blood vessels to the heart, the blood becomes very thickened and the blood flow becomes very slow. So blood transportation doesn't take place due to this fat content. So that's why the lacteal receives, the lymph vessels carries the fatty acids and the glycerols to the heart. It doesn't mix into the blood. So after the small intestine opens into a large intestine. The length of the large intestine, you can see here, it is 1.5 meters long. So it is a 3 parts. It is having the 3 parts, that is cecum, colon, rectum. Cecum, colon, rectum. So here you can see cecum, colon and rectum, children. So that are parts of the large intestine. The large intestine starts with the small part, that is a cecum. Next continues with the colon. Next it continues with the rectum. Let us see what is the importance of cecum, colon and rectum. So cecum, colon and rectum. The cecum is well developed in a herbivorous but very small in a man. The cecum is well developed in the herbivorous animals and it is very small in the animals. What is the importance of this? Arising from the cecum is a finger-like vestigial organ, that is a vermiform appendix. It is a vestigial organ in a human digestive system, but it is a useful organ in the grass-eating animals, herbivorous animals. The grass contains the cellulose. It helps to digest the cellulose, the vermiform appendix. So we don't eat the grass, though we eat the plant material. It consists of a cellulose also. This cellulose acts as a fibrous material, and the fiber facilitate easy digestion in the food, or a smooth digestion or a better digestion in the food. How the cellulose is taken? Again it will be comes out in the form of a fecal matter. So vermiform appendix is the vestigial organ in our digestive system. So the cecum opens into a colon. The colon consists of 3 limbs, that is ascending colon, transfer and descending colon. You can see in the picture ascending colon, transfer colon and descending colon. The ascending colon, descending colon and the transfer colon together, they helps to transport the waste substances into the rectum. So the descending colon opens into the rectum. So rectum, pelvic column leads to the rectum at the opens out of the anus. The rectum helps to opens into the anus. Anus is guarded by the anal sphincter. So the anus will be guarded by the anal sphincter. When we get the motion, by the opening of the anal sphincter, the motion or the fecal matter will be eliminated out of the body. So the large intestine is formed into 3 parts. In some herbivorous organs, intestine consists of cellulose digesting bacteria. Herbivorous animals means grass eating animals. In the grass eating animals, we can find the bacteria which is mainly responsible for the digestion of the cellulose. For human beings, the cellulose will not be digested. It will act as the vestigial part, and the cellulose substance will not digested in our digestive system. So this cellulose, however it enters, again it comes out in the form of a waste substance. Now let us see transverse section of a human gut. If you cut the human gut, it is made up of 3 layers, nearly 4 layers. The 4 layers are mucosa, submucosa, muscularis and serosa. So the top layer is called, the innermost moist epithelial layer is called as a mucosa. It contains secretory and absorptive cells. The mucosa consists of a secretory and absorptive cells, and submucosa consists of soft connective tissue layer just outside the mucus. So contains nerves and the blood vessels. So this mucus consists of nerves and the blood. Submucosa consists of nerves and the blood vessels. And muscularis, outer to submucous, smooth muscular layer. So inner circular and outer longitudinal muscles are made by the muscularis layer. And the last one is a serosa. It is a outermost layer. So the last layer is serosa. So outermost, the fibrous layer, we call it as a serosa. Once you can observe the layers here. When we cut the layer wise, you can see here the transverse section if you take. There you can find the 4 layers. No? So the innermost empty space, we call it as a lumen. The next to the lumen, it is a mucosa. Next one is a submucosa. Next one circular layer. That are different layers we can find when we have a transverse section of. So if you see in a short form, the human digestive system starts with the mouth, opens into buccal cavity, the buccal cavity opens into pharynx, pharynx opens into esophagus, esophagus opens into stomach. The stomach contains the end of the stomach, pyloric part consists of pyloric sphincter. The pyloric sphincter opens into a C-shaped. You can see the C-shaped duodenum there in a circular. So it is at a glance of the human digestive system. These are the different parts which are located in the human digestive system. And now let us see the different types of digestive glands. So we can see here the digestive glands. Different types of digestive glands. What are the different types of digestive glands? So the digestive glands, they secrete the digestive juices for the digestion of food. What is the main thing, Nana? The digestive glands secrete the digestive juices. These digestive juices helps to the better digestion of food which we eat. So the types of digestive glands are, first one is salivary glands, second one is gastric glands, third one is liver, fourth one is pancreas, and fifth one is intestinal glands. First one is salivary glands, second one is gastric glands, third one is liver, fourth one is pancreas, and fifth one is intestinal glands. So these are the different types of glands which are associated with the digestive system. Let us see each types of digestive glands. So first digestive gland is a salivary gland. See the baby boy, how he is secreting the saliva, no? Very cute, boy is looking very cute. So in our mouth we can find 3 pairs of salivary glands. Parotid, first a pair of salivary glands, parotid glands, there are 2. Largest salivary glands, these are the largest salivary glands seen in the cheeks. They are seen in the cheek. So you can see in the picture, it is a round off, that is a parotid salivary glands. Second one is a submaxillary. or submandibular glands. Submaxillary or submandibular glands, these are seen in the lower jaw. Submandibular glands are seen in the lower jaw, and sublingual glands seen below the tongue. They are seen in the below the tongue. One is at the cheek region, and one pair, three pairs, no, one pair at the cheek region, and second pair is in a jaws, and the third pair is in a between the tongue, below the tongue we can find. Three types of salivary glands: the parotid glands, submaxillary or submandibular glands, and sublingual glands. So these three pairs of salivary glands are present. Salivary glands secrete the saliva. So the salivary glands used to secrete the saliva. So the saliva contains 99.5% water. 99.5% of water, mucin, that is a mucus, and enzymes like salivary amylase, ptyalin, and lysozyme, and electrolyte like sodium, potassium, chlorine. Such electrolytes are present in the saliva. These are the components which are present in the saliva. So next type, after salivary glands, the next type of glands are gastric glands. So tubular glands found on the inner walls of the stomach. The tubular glands which are present in the inner walls of the stomach are called as the tubular glands, that are called as gastric glands. So these secreted acid. The acid pH is 1.8 to 2.0. The acidity of the gastric juices are in acidic in condition. So the acidity is 1.8 to 2.0, and the gastric glands consist of three kinds of cells. The gastric glands contains the three kinds of cells, that are mucous neck cells. You can find in a round structures in the picture. Mucous neck cells, sheath, zymosin or peptic cells, and oxantic cells. These are different types of cells, zymosin cells and oxantic cells. First one is mucous neck cells. They secrete the mucus. Mucus and bicarbonates protects the stomach wall, mucous epithelium. So this mucus and bicarbonates, they protects the walls of the stomach from the HCl and prevent the autodigestion. So this HCl is nothing but hydrochloric acid, which causes the burning. So this mucus and these bicarbonates, they facilitate the protection to the walls of the stomach from the burning of hydrochloric acid. The walls of the stomach, not prevention of burning from the hydrochloric acid. And the next one is sheath, zymosin or peptic cells. They secrete proenzymes like pepsinogen and prorenin. They secrete proenzymes that are called as pepsinogen and prorenin, and some lipase, and also secrete the lipase. Next, third type of cell is oxantic parietal cells, that are secretes hydrochloric acid and castiles intestinal factors for the absorption of vitamin B12. So these oxantic particles helps to secrete the vitamin B12. So the vitamin B12 itself is secreted in the stomach. The next digestive gland is the liver. So the largest gland. Nearly the weight of the liver is 1.5 kgs. The weight of the liver is 1.5 kgs. The color is reddish brown and bilobed. You can see the lobes. Large right lobe and a small left lobe. Large right lobe and a small left lobe. Each lobe is formed of structural and functional unit cells are called as hepatic lobules. What are the structural functional units in the liver? That are the hepatic lobes. So each lobe is made by the structural functional lobe, that is a hepatic lobe, that is a digestive glands. So the liver is having a special cells are called as hepatic cells. So the right lobule, it is a big lobule, and the left lobule is a small lobule. A lobule has many hepatic cells arranged as cords around a central vein. In a picture you can find in a central vein. They secrete the alkaline bile juice. What is the nature of bile juice, Nana? Alkaline. So liver lobule is covered by Glisson's capsules. The liver globule is covered by Glisson's capsule. It is a part which covers the liver's globules. So it is covered by the Glisson's capsule. The bile juice in a alkaline medium. See, early morning when we brush our teeth, when you get a vomiting, no, the throat becomes very sour in taste. That means the stomach is filled with the acid, that is a hydrochloric acid. So acidity is present. But sometimes when we get a vomit, we feel very bitter in taste. That is alkaline condition. Production of bile juice is more, and the stomach nature is in a alkaline condition. So once you can find here how the bile is stored in the hepatic duct. Through the hepatic duct it reaches to the gallbladder. From the gallbladder it reaches to the cystic duct. From the cystic duct it reaches to the common bile duct. From the common bile duct, common hepatopancreatic duct. Then it enters into the duodenum. You can see in the picture the same. When the liver secretes the bile juice, that bile juice travels through the hepatic duct to the gallbladder. From the gallbladder, the gallbladder stores the bile juice. Okay, the excessive bile juice will be stored in the gallbladder. So from the gallbladder it reaches to the cystic duct. From the cystic duct to the common bile duct. From the common bile duct it reaches to the hepatopancreatic duct. Then it releases into the duodenum. Duodenum is a common passage which receives one side from bile juice from the liver and another side pancreatic juice from the pancreas. Next gland, the liver. So you can see here picture. So hepatopancreatic duct is guarded by the sphincter of Oddi. So this hepatopancreatic duct is protected by, that means it prevents the mixing of the bile juice and the pancreatic juice should not mix, no. So in order to separate that, it is separated. Hepatopancreatic duct is guarded by the sphincter. The guarded sphincter we call it as a Oddi. The guarded sphincter we call it as a Oddi. And bile has no enzymes, but it contains a bile pigments. The bile juice does not have any enzymes. Enzymes means chemical substances. It doesn't secrete any chemicals. But the bile juice is secreting pigments which we call it as a bile pigments. Bilirubin and biliverdin. Bilirubin and biliverdin. Bile salts, cholesterol and phospholipids. Bilirubin, biliverdin, bile salts, cholesterol and phospholipids are secreted in the bile. This is about the liver. So the liver also participates in the process of emulsification. What is emulsification? Breaking of large fat globules into small fat globules. Next one is a pancreas. Second largest gland, seen near the duodenal loop. We can find the liver, the leaf-like yellow color part, the leaf-like structure, we call it as a pancreas. Second largest gland is a pancreas. It can be seen near the duodenal loop. It is a cream colored heterocrine gland. It is a heterocrine gland because it is both exocrine gland and endocrine gland. It is a ductus gland as well as a ductless gland. Because it secretes enzymes and hormones, it is called as a mixed gland. Okay. The exocrine part has a pancreatic duct that opens into the duodenum along with the bile duct, hepatopancreatic duct. Okay. The exocrine part is a pancreatic duct. It opens into duodenum. Okay. So exocrine part secretes alkaline pancreatic juice. What is exocrine part? It secretes the pancreatic juice. It contains inactive proteinase enzyme, trypsinase, chymotrypsinase and para-carboxypeptidase. These are the enzymes which are present in the pancreatic juice. Amylase, lipase and nuclease. These are the enzymes which are present in the pancreatic juice. So the pancreatic juice secrete amylase, lipase and also peptidase. Okay. Next one is a simple tubular gland. Small intestinal, in the small intestine consists of intestinal glands. There are two types, that is a cryptase of a Langerhans consists of mucus secretion goblet cells and enzyme secreting Paneth cells. Burner duodenal glands, that is a confined to submucosa. They are confined to the submucosa. Duodenum secrete mucus only. This gland secrete only the mucus. The intestinal glands secrete alkaline intestinal juice that we call it as succus entericus. So it contains enzymes like maltase, lactase, sucrase, dipeptidase, lipase, nucleotide, nuclease. So these all are intestinal juice. Succus entericus consists of all these: maltase, lactase, sucrase, dipeptidase, lipase, nucleotase, nucleodase. Okay. The bicarbonates in the mucus provide medium and protect the intestinal mucus. So these allow intestinal glands, they secrete again bicarbonates and also the mucus. So what they used to do, they provide the alkaline medium and protect the intestinal mucus. They used to protect the intestinal mucus. Now let us see how the food will be digested. Digestion of the food. How the food will be digested? Let us see in the stomach. Digestion is the conversion of complex insoluble food materials into simple and absorbable form. Conversion of complex food molecules into simple food molecules which are able to easily absorb. Okay. It includes mechanical processes such as mastication, which means chewing, deglution, which means swallowing, and peristalsis. It is a wave-like movement of a food bolus through the gut by the muscle contraction. I said no, alternate contraction and relaxation of longitudinal and circular muscles of the esophagus. We call it as a peristalsis, which helps to mix the food easily and helps to promote the digestion of the food. Now, only starch is digestion in the food. The mouth consists of salivary glands. They secrete the salivary amylase. Simply we call it as a ptyalin. So it converts the starch polysaccharides into disaccharides. They convert the starch, that means the glucose, the carbohydrates which we eat, they will be converted into polysaccharides and disaccharides. About 30% of starch is digested in the ptyalin, by the ptyalin. The ptyalin is nothing but salivary amylase secreted by the salivary glands. So here 30% of starch will be digested in the mouth. Okay. You can see the equation: starch, salivary amylase. The condition form of this salivary amylase is the pH is 6.8 and maltose. The amylase converts the starch into a maltose plus isomaltose plus limit dextrins. So it converts. This is the form of a digestion in the mouth. After digestion in the mouth, food reaches into the stomach. There is no digestion in esophagus. Esophagus, the food pipe, only transfers the food from the mouth to the stomach. Stomach stores the food for 4 to 5 hours. The stomach stores the food for the 4 to 5 hours. It is mixed with the gastric juices by the churning movements and is converted into a acidic pasty form. Acidic pasty form. Churning means chewing very well, masticating very well. So it is mixed with the gastric juices by the churning movements. Vigorous contraction and relaxation. Churning means a mixing such movements and is converted into acidic pastry forms. It is we call it as the complete the digested, partial digested food in the stomach, we call it as a chyme, and the partial digested food in the mouth we call it as a bolus. So in the stomach, pepsinogen, it is an inactive enzyme. So the hydrochloric acid convert the pepsinogen into pepsin. So when pepsinogen is converted in the form of pepsin, the pepsin becomes very active manner. Now these pepsin acts on the proteins. In the presence of peptins, the proteins converts into proteases protons. Peptidase. Protons are the peptidase. So the pepsinogen converts due to the acidity of a hydrochloric acid, it becomes into a peptones, and they pepsin, and these pepsin convert them into a protein, acts on the proteins. The proteins will be digested in the form of proteases or the peptones, partially digestion of the proteins. In the mouth we used to find the digestion of carbohydrates. In the stomach we find the digestion of proteins. Okay, coming to infants, prorenin is active. Prorenin is an inactive enzyme. When HCl is released, it converts in the active form, that we call it as a renin. Prorenin is an inactive enzyme. When the hydrochloric acid is released, it converts prorenin into a renin. That is an active enzyme. Okay. So next one is a casein. It is a milk protein. Casein is a milk protein. It acts on the renin, and it converts into a parakinase. Paracasein. Next, the paracasein reacts with the calcium salts and Ca-paracasinate curd. Next one is Ca-paracasinate converts by the pepsin into a proteins. Okay, so the gastric lipase, hydrolase, and the small amount of lipids are produced. The gastric juices, they converts the lipase into lipids. The lipase converts in the lipids. So occurs mostly in a duodenum. So chyme is mixed with the bile juice, pancreatic juice, and intestinal juice. What is the chyme? The partially digested food in the stomach. So it is mixed with the chyme is mixed with the bile juice, pancreatic juice, and intestinal juice, and also it is also mixed with intestinal juice, that is a succus entericus juice. So occurs mostly in duodenum, the digestion. The chyme will be mixed with the bile juice. Okay, now let us see action of bile juice. The bile helps in the digestion of emulsification. So fat globules, conversion of fat molecules or at tiny droplets. So it provides a large surface area for the action of lipase of a fat, and bile also active the lipase. So the bile juice convert the large fat globules into a small fat globules. Their equation is given, no? Large fat globule plus bile salts. When they are mixed, the large fat globules are splitting into small fat globules by the action of the bile juice. Then what is action of pancreatic juice? Amylopsin, that is a pancreatic amylase, hydrolyze remaining starch into the disaccharides. So the starch, when the amylopsin acts on the starch, it converts into maltase plus isomalase salts and the limit dextrins. You can see action of a pancreatic juice. Enterokinin, enteropeptidase present in the intestinal juice. It activates trypsinogen to active the trypsin. Trypsinogen is inactive state, gen is a inactive state. Okay, trypsinogen is inactive state, it becomes into the active state as a trypsin. Trypsin activates chymotrypsinogen and carboxypeptidase. So trypsinogen, in the presence of enterokinin, it converts into trypsin. Chymotrypsinogen in the presence of trypsin converts into chymotrypsin. Procarboxypeptidase converts in the presence of trypsin into a carboxypeptidase. Proteins, peptones, and proteinases in the presence of trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carboxypeptidase, they will be converts into dipeptidates. Proteins, peptones, and proteinases in the presence of trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, they will be converts into dipeptidates. And fats, in the presence of lipase, they converts into diglycerides. These diglycerides in the presence of lipase, they will be converts into monoglycerides. So the nucleic acids in the presence of nuclease converts into nucleotides. So this is the ultimate digestion by the pancreatic juice. Now let us see the action of intestinal juice. At duodenum, the intestinal enzymes acts on those products. So the dipeptides in the presence of dipeptidase, they will be converts into amino acids. The maltose in the presence of maltase, they converts into 2 glucose molecules. The lactase in the presence of lactase, they'll convert glucose plus galactose. And the sucrose in the presence of sucrase, they convert into sucrose and fructose. And the nucleotides in the presence of nucleotidase, they convert into nucleosides. The nucleosides in the presence of nucleosidase, they will be breaks into sugars and the bases. The last, the diglycerides and monoglycerides in the presence of lipase, they will be converted in the form of fatty acids and the glycerols. So the ultimate complete digestion will be takes in the place of intestine, the small intestine. The digestion will complete in the small intestine. Now let us see the functions of large intestine. In large intestine, there is no significant of digestive activity. Complete digestion is completed in the small intestine. No act of digestion will take place in the large intestine. Okay, so what are the functions of large intestine? Absorption of water, minerals and certain drugs. The large intestine absorbs the water, excessive water, minerals and the certain drugs, and it secretes the mucus for adhering waste. That means undigested waste particles together and lubricating in the form of an easy passage. It makes fecal matter. So fully digested semi-fluid and alkaline food is small intestine is called as chyle. The complete digested food which is present in the small intestine. That means I said the partial digested food in the mouth we call it as a bolus, and partially digested food in the stomach we call it as a chyme. And complete digestion of food which is completed, fully digested food in the small intestine we call it as a chyme. Regulation of digestion. So the digestive activities like gastric and intestinal secretions are controlled by the neural and hormonal mechanism. Nerves and the hormones, they control the process of digestion. The sight, smell or presence of food in a buccal cavity stimulates salivary secretion. Yes or no? When we see the food, when we smell the food, we feel to secrete the saliva. We feel hungry and we start to secrete the salivation. Gastric and intestinal mucus secretes digestive hormones. So the gastric and intestinal mucus, they secrete the digestive hormones. So they control the secretion of digestive juice. So they will control the secretion of digestive juice. In this manner, the digestion will be controlled. Up to now, we complete how the digestion of food waste takes place. The next step is absorption. How the digested food is get to be absorbed. Absorption is the transfer of end products of a digestion from intestine to the circulatory fluids. That means that into the digested carbohydrates converts into glucose, the digested proteins converts into amino acids, the digested fats converts into fatty acids and the glycerols. So they has to reach us to the bloodstream. No? So reaching the bloodstream is nothing but we call it as absorption. Types of absorption, two types, that is a passive absorption and active absorption. So the passive absorption takes place in the process of osmosis and diffusion. What is osmosis? Transfer of the molecules from the low concentration to high concentration through semi-permeable membrane. Like that, the molecules will travel from the small intestine to the bloodstream. And diffusion means transfer of molecules from high concentration to low concentration. Again, the diffusion is in a simple manner and facilitated manner. The absorption process diffusion will take place in a simple manner and a facilitated manner it takes place. What is a passive absorption? Absorption of nutrients from high concentrated region to the low concentrated region without the expenditure of energy. Without any energy, food is transported from high concentration to low concentration. Such a absorption we call it as a passive absorption. It includes osmosis, absorption of water, and diffusion, absorption of the solute molecules. So it includes in the osmosis as well as the process of a diffusion. Diffusion is of two types, that is a simple diffusion and a facilitated diffusion. What is a simple diffusion? In this, molecules alone can be diffused. Example, small amounts of monosaccharides like glucose, amino acids, vitamins, electrolytes like chlorine, etc. They will be diffused in the simple form. And what is a facilitated diffusion? Diffusion with the help of carrier proteins like glucose, amino acids, which are carriers that facilitate caused by the facilitated diffusion. So absorption of nutrients from low concentrated region to high concentrated region against concentration gradient. It needs the energy, that is the active absorption. For active absorption, it needs the energy. Example, absorption of amino acids, monosaccharides like glucose, electrolytes like sodium, etc. These all are needed. In order to absorb, these all are need the energy. If the energy needed absorption is taking place, such a absorption we call it as a active absorption. Then how the lipids, digested fats are called as the fat contents are called as lipids. No? So monoglycerides, diglycerides and fatty acids cannot be absorbed directly as they are water insoluble. Because oil cannot dissolve in the water, no? These are water insoluble. Bile salts and phospholipids converts them into a small spherical water soluble droplets called micelles. They are called as micelles. They are reformed into a small protein coated fat globules. They form into a small coated fat globules. They are transported into a lacteals in the villi. I show in the villi, into lacteal, the yellow long part, the green long part you can see it is a lymph. So from the lymph they will be enters into the blood. Through the lymph they will enters into the blood. Absorption is different parts of alimentary canal. Mouth, certain in the mouth absorption takes place. Certain drugs will be absorbed in the mouth. Water, simple sugars, some drugs and alcohol are absorbed into the stomach. All nutrients including minerals and vitamins also are absorbed into the small intestine. Water, some minerals and the drugs, they will be absorbed into the large intestine. So absorption in different parts. Small intestine is the chief area of absorption due to the presence of villi. It increases the surface area of absorption. It great length and the small intestine is coiled nature, no? So absorbed materials are incorporated into a tissue for their activity. So this is called as assimilation. After absorption, absorption materials are incorporated into all the tissues. This activity we call it as assimilation. So undigested substances like plant fibers, dead bacteria, etc. from the feces they reveals exudate. So it enters a cecum through the ileococcal valve, which prevents the back flow of the fecal matter. That is a valve, ileococcal valve, which prevents the back flow of fecal matter. So feces are temporarily stored in the rectum and are eliminated throughout the anus. It is called as egestion. The fecal matter will be eliminated out of the body, the waste substance. We call it as a egestion or the defecation, or we can call it as the excretion process. So how the food is taken, how the digestion takes place, absorption, ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, egestion, all these processes are taking place. After that, Basing on intaking of a food, we have a different disorders. No, let us have a short explanation for a better understanding. Disorders of digestive system. What are the different types of disorders? Let us see the disorders of digestive system. The first one is jaundice. Here the skin and eye turns yellow due to the deposition of bile pigments. Excessive secretion of bile pigments. We can find the skin turns into a yellow, and even eyes also turns into yellow. Why they are turns into the yellow? Due to the deposition of bile pigments. So it indicates the liver damage. So that means when the bile is not balancing in a better manner, that means we can say that the activation of liver is in a poor condition. So the jaundice is causing. So we can say that damage to the jaundice. Next digestive disorder is vomitings. Adhesion of the stomach content through the mouth, coming out through the mouth, the food materials. So it is controlled by the medulla oblongata. The vomiting condition is controlled by the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata controls the all involuntary actions. So these involuntary, vomiting is also an involuntary action. So the vomiting is controlled by the medulla oblongata. That's why we don't know how it is causing, how it is getting. Next one is diarrhea. So frequent elimination of watery feces, loose motions, continuous motions. It reduces the absorption of food. The food cannot be absorbed freely and easily. Next disorder is constipation. Infrequent elimination of dry stools. Dry stools means it is not a watery stool, and a hard stool will come out. It is due to the decrease the peristalsis in colon. The peristaltic movements are decreased in the colon. Colon is the large part of a large intestine. Next disorder is indigestion. Condition leading to feeling of fullness due to the improper digestion. Always we feel that the stomach is full due to the fullness of gastric juices. It is due to the anxiety, inadequate enzyme secretion, food poisoning, spicy food, etc. If we eat a spicy food, it causes due to anxiety, inadequate secretion of enzymes, digestive enzymes are secreted, very less content, food poisoning, the food is becoming as a poison, and spicy food, etc. The indigestion process will take place. The next disorder of digestive system is protein energy malnutrition. What is a malnutrition? We used to take a balanced diet. But what is a balanced diet? The diet which consists of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins and fibers and the water. If all these substances are not present in the food, any one component is reduced in the amount of a food, that condition we call it as a malnutrition. So it is a dietary deficiency of a proteins and the food calories, energy, carbohydrates and the proteins. So PEM, marasmus and kwashiorkor in a children we can see that. Protein and PEM is protein energy malnutrition. Okay, it is due to the deficiency of both proteins and the calories. Calories means carbohydrates. It is found in infants less than a year in age. Very small children we used to find less than 1 year. Reason: replacement of mouth's milk by food with the poor proteins and the caloric values, less content of calories and the proteins. This happens if the mother has a second pregnancy or a childbirth when older infant is still too young. Very soon birth. Next birth, very soon births are given. So already the mother used to give a feeding for the previous baby. By that very soon she conceived to another baby. So for the second baby easily may connect because the mother unable to provide the sufficient amount of a food to the baby. That will be the one of the reason. Okay. Next, disorders of digestive system. Next one, marasmus, impaired growth and replacement of tissue proteins. Impaired growth means no better growth, no proper growth of the organs in the body. Extreme emaciation of the body, thin limbs, very thin limbs, dry, thin and wrinkled skin, declined growth. The growth rate will be declined and the body weight will be reduced, impaired growth and development of brain and mental disorders will be takes place. So it is due to the protein deficiency only. The reason is replacement of mother's milk by a high calories. We have to replace it with a high calories, low protein diet in a child more than 1 year in the age it causes. What are the symptoms? Like marasmus, it shows the wasting of a muscles and a thinning of a limbs, failure of a growth and a brain development, no brain development. Unlike marasmus, some fat is still under the skin, extensive edema and swelling of a body parts. So edema means swelling of the body parts with the water. Fill the body parts are filling with the body parts. So children will have a small video how the process of nutrition is taking place in the human beings. Hope you will understand the concept well. So let us have the small video. Okay children. So here the process of human nutrition in human beings. You can see the process of nutrition in human beings is called as digestion. Consists of specialized organs of the process of called digestive system. So the digestive system includes alimentary canal and the digestive glands as we discussed previously. So the digestive system starts with the mouth and ends with the anus. The mouth is the first part of the alimentary canal. The taking food through the mouth is called as ingestion. So when the food enters into the mouth, the complex food crushed into with the help of the teeth, they masticated together. So the saliva secreted from the salivary glands to buccal cavity and crushed into the soft bolus with the help of the saliva. So the starch breakdown by the salivary amylase into the sugars. So the partially digested food in the mouth, we call it as a bolus. So the bolus will travel into a food pipe we call as alimentary canal or esophagus that we call as a food pipe, which shows the process of peristalsis. So the food enters from the mouth into the stomach through the food pipe, which we call it as a esophagus. So the stomach is a large muscular hollow part which expand when the food enters. So the muscle walls of the stomach help in mixing of food with the digestive juice. So the gastric glands present in the walls of the stomach which release hydrochloric acid, mucus and digestive enzymes called as a pepsin that is secreted in the stomach. So the proteins will be digested partially in the stomach. So the HCl creates the acidic medium which facilitate the action of pepsin. So after the digestion in the stomach reaches to the small intestine. The exit of the food to the stomach regulated by the sphincter muscles which release the food small quantities into the small intestine. So the small intestine is the largest part. The digestive carbohydrates, proteins and fats occurs in the small intestine. So partially digestion takes place in the mouth and the stomach. The ultimate digestion will take place. Now the bile juice secreted by the liver, it acts on the fat globules, convert the large fat globules into small fat globules. We call it as emulsification. Pancreas secrete the pancreas which contains enzymes, trypsin, amylase, lipase. So this pancreatic juice, the trypsin acts on the proteins. So the walls of the small intestine secrete intestinal juices. So then the digestion will take place. Starch molecules converts into sugars. Fats will converts into fatty acids and the glycerols. So the stomach food acidic in nature in the stomach due to the presence of hydrochloric acid. So these will be neutralized into the alkaline medium in the small intestine. So the digestion will completed in the small intestine. So The inner layer of the small intestine consists of a number of finger-like projections which we call as villi. They absorb the food substance. You can see the villi, finger-like projections which are containing many blood vessels. The digested food will absorb into the blood vessels, and the food will be assimilated. So here the food is ultimately digested and they are transporting, that we call absorbing is called as absorption. After the absorption, assimilation is taking place. So the excessive unnecessary wanted substances will enters into the large intestine. The large intestine is having a cecum, colon and rectum. Through the colon reaches to the rectum and reaches to the anus. Anus contains the anal sphincter. So through anal sphincter the food comes out.